Hi Paul, Colin here. I'm just going to do your review for you. I've already popped up. I had a bit of while trying to figure out who you are or where you are, and it's easier when you've got people there. And I haven't got my order wrote down, so I'm presuming this is you. You've got a swim kit, hat on, as far as I remember, and yeah, I have a little bit of blur in here, so it can sometimes deviate this. Deviate the analysis a little bit. But again, I'm just going to go through the common faults. Some of them you might have heard there yesterday. Apologies, I should have reviewed you at the start first. If you're there again, just make sure that you budge you up at the front, because it can be a little bit difficult not to, or to get a scene. Straight away, I can see, if you could imagine, Paul, that's the center line of your body, and we don't want to be crossing that center line of the body. If we were going from the head up, it's probably not the straightest line ever, but essentially that's the position where we would like to see the arm on the left hand side. And as you can see with your arm, it's your shoulders probably in around here, and the hand is going slightly across the center line of the body. I look in a minute now to see what does that do anything at the back, but I just want to let it run and see what. I have a blurred line. I'm just going to let it run a little bit further to see if I get out of that blur. Um, Sometimes I change my angle, you know. Okay, pretty good, pretty good. So on this side, it doesn't look too bad. Just something, I don't know if that's the camera. Yeah, this side is quite wide, in comparison to a little bit of a crossover, but it is actually recovered quite well. So we'll have another look when we get under the water to see what's actually going on down there. But I'm nearly 100% sure you have a slight crossover going on there with your stroke. So if we're going to slow it right down and just see what happens. Okay, you hold your legs together quite well there at the back. There is a bit of a splay in the leg kick there. And also I'd like to have a look at the mobility here of your ankles. That's just kind of shadowing what the outside of it is like. We're just going to let it run to see if that splay and leg kick. It's kind of a very twisty kind of stroke. I'm not sure how you got on with that test with Ross yesterday, but I think you wouldn't have done too well um, on the thoracic test, because I can see the restriction here between the shoulder blades. So you're always going to struggle to get a high elbow recovery, and at that you're having to swing your arm around to the side. See, when you start swinging your arm around to the side here, Paul, that's what's actually causing that little bit of a splay and leg kick. Now, what we need you to do is probably think about becoming a swinger, or that type of a stroke mentality. So effectively, it's instead of trying to engage with a high elbow recovery, what you should be trying to do is use a swinging style to your stroke. And I'm going to show you some of the an example of what I mean by a swimming, or a swinger style to the stroke, like. And I think that'll suit you an awful lot more. So it's basically catching, or recovering with a straight arm recovery rather than with a high elbow recovery. Harry Wilshire is one person that is like, has got a swinging mentality to the stroke, and then you have another one. Shelley Taylor Smith is pretty swinging style to her stroke. So if we let this play on a wee bit, and just get a look at Shelley Taylor Smith, and you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. So she hasn't got a high elbow recovery, so effectively she just swings her stroke from side to side. But what I want you to really picture here with this girl's stroke is the rhythm. She doesn't have that high elbow recovery, but it's very rhythmical. Rhythmical the stroke is. Um, Yours isn't as rhythmical, it's a lot slower. And what's actually going on with your stroke is you're trying to, at some stage, bring in that high elbow, but kind of it's not going to happen, you know. And that's causing that kind of twisty turny um, stroke mechanics. So effectively what we want to do is we want to eventually turn you into a swinging style stroke. So we're going to have to concentrate on a couple of things when we're developing your stroke. Is trying to catch through with a straight arm and trying to avoid that little bit of a crossover that's happening there with the left hand side, because that causes a whole lot of imbalances. Apologies. Okay, now from a typical view of it's very twisty here when you turn to breathe. If you can see here, I can see two goggles out of the water. It's quite rushed and it's quite twisty, you know. You have a good stroke rate. I just find that when you turn to breathe, it's a bit. It's hard to judge what type of breathing cycle you do. You're kind of not even. You're breathing. I know you're breathing bilaterally, but it's not exactly bilateral. If anything, I'm seeing a timing issue there with your breathing. You're breathing quite late in the stroke by the looks of it. Your head is actually nearly turned, still turned as the hand is entering the water. Nah, it seems to be okay, you know. So it's pretty good, yeah. So again, you can see that swinging arm on both sides. It's just this left arm seems to come across the center line of the body, and that can cause it also. It's causing quite a little bit of twisting. So it's just again, just to emphasize from above, that left arm is coming a little bit too far across at that stage there. So what we should be trying to do is enter it in a straighter motion. Be interested to see what it looks like under the water, Paul, but that doesn't look too good. If anything, you're nearly over rotating when you're turning your head position as well, and that's what I'm trying to pick up on with your head position. And again, you can see it from the pool deck. Is when you actually turn your head to breathe, you can see two goggles clearly out of the water a little bit further on. Of course, the blur in the camera would have to be at the best point the whole way to block the head, but yeah, you can see it, clearly see it there now. That's capturing. Okay, yeah, this is where it's bringing it in. When you're breathing to your right hand side, you're breathing way too far, and you can see there is kind of a lift of the head more so than a turn of the head. That turn of the head, when it goes too far, is causing those legs to splay out. Okay, and so we really need to focus on your head position. You're actually turning way too far. So it's one goggle in the water, one goggle out of the water. Okay. If you just look at Shelley here and see, if we just look at her position in here, and just see what her head position is like when she turns to breathe. She's swimming at about 110s to 115s per 100. Now, clearly see, you can see two goggles, but it's barely a goggle and a half that comes out of the water. Again, while if you look at yours in your head position, Paul, we'll just bring it back a wee bit. Sorry. Just bring it a touch back to see if we can capture that picture again. So when you turn your head, yeah, you can clearly see that we're seeing two goggles clearly out of the water. So it's just something to be conscious of, that you really need to reduce that head position. Okay. When you turn to the other side, when you're breathing to the left hand side, it's not as bad. It's more so to the right hand side. Okay, we're going to move it on a wee bit and see how we get on. If we can pick it up on the opposite side. So we've had it on one side, you're breathing. Just going to have a look at it from this angle. Yeah, you can see very bad camera angle. Apologies, Paul. It's just the word splashes on the camera. But I'm seeing Clearly 2 goggles out of the water there. Now we've moved slightly ahead of it. Hopefully we might get another breath. We won't. Um, okay. Just going to show you again examples of this when you're breathing, so you're going to let it run for a little bit longer, particularly to this left hand side. Okay, we're really slowed down now. See what it looks like. Now, that's a perfect picture for it, right? You can see your head position now, Paul. I just want to emphasize this. It all starts with the head position. You really need to focus on getting that head position right. That'll sort out that crossover at the back end of the stroke that we talked about. You can nearly see your head is lifting out of the water. What? Now, Paul, we're going to look underneath the water, I think, to see what the next angle is going to look like. And straight away, it's not too pretty. Now we're at a slow motion here, so what I'm seeing here, what I'm looking for here is actually balance, you know, what the body is like and what the balance is like in the water, and straight away you can see that your legs are quite sunk at the back, so we're going to have to try and figure out what is the cause of these legs sinking. Loads of things can cause legs to sink at the back. Holding on to your breath can be one of them. Another one could be pushing down at the front towards the bottom of the pool is a big culprit for it. Lack of mobility in and around the ankles, which we call sea anchors, which you can clearly see is they're very immobile there. That can be another cause of it. Head position, you know, there are a lot of them. So we can see the sea anchors is definitely one. I'm just going to check the breathing pattern now and see what that looks like. Can see some bubbles coming there, but really not a huge amount, Paul. So, and it's breathing through the nose. Nothing wrong with breathing through the nose, but it's very slight exhalation there. I think that could be a bit of a possibility of it. Although no, you can see a bit of a clear. I'm just trying to get it. Yeah, there is exhalation, but it's not a huge amount of exhalation. So I think you could be holding on to your breath a little bit. Another thing that I'm noticing here is the arm cycle is you're catching the water here, and instead of pushing the water basically down and around you, it's kind of pushing down towards the bottom of the pool in that direction, you know. So effectively you're pushing down towards the bottom of the pool on the left hand side, definitely, and that pushing down towards the bottom of the pool could be causing, yeah, and it's on the right hand side too. Before you engage your catch at all, you're kind of landing on the water and pushing down towards the bottom of the pool. I think that would be the biggest cause of your sea anchors. But between your sea anchors, which is your lack of mobility in your ankles, that's something you need to work on. And also pushing down towards the bottom of the pool is probably causing that sinking leg and the poor balance. The breathing could be a contributor to it, but I definitely think that's the two main things. Just again, just to sorry, I'll give you an example of it, of what it's like to see somebody with a good body position in the water. You can see the heels are clearing the water over here, which is pretty good. As you go on a little bit further, and we have a look at her underneath the water, you can just see the body position there. It's just superb. Effectively, what you have is from the head right across the toes, body is out of the water, lovely position, not a bad body either. And then as she does a turn, and we're going to have a look at her from the opposite side. again, you can see that the body position is very good. If we move it on a little bit further and we're going to see it from the side, what I want you to see is the actual is from this position, which is very, very extreme. You can see that's the position she's in. Effectively, as she catches the water, it's straight behind her on both sides. There's no necessary push down towards the bottom of the pool. It's into a catch, so not pushing down, she's automatically just swipping into a catch. While effectively, if you look, I don't like to be casting on you here, but uh, it's effectively you're dropping your hand and your elbow towards the bottom of the pool before you even start to catch, and you're starting your catch way too late. So that's a bit of a complex thing to do, to work on. First and foremost, what we're going to do is work on the breathing, work on the head position, and what we'll do then is we'll have a look at it again at a later date. But after working on the breathing and the head position, we'll then move to the hand entry, and then we start thinking about the catch. So that'll be the hierarchy of stroke learning. Okay, Paul, that's enough. So over the next couple of lessons, the next 2 to 3 weeks, all I want you is focusing on that head position, focusing on exhalation, and I'll send you your swim smooth based on the type of swimmer you are. Okay, no worries, Paul. Thanks.